Preparing, setting up.
So it's streaming to Facebook and will be saved on our Facebook page for anyone that wants to access it in the future. And I will try to take a peek at the Facebook in case there's any public comment on there as well.
And you are now host.
Thank you. Phone number ending in 5062. Are you a board member or a member of the public?
Public.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:04 p.m. on April 20th, 2002. Hopefully the construction noises behind me are not distracting. This is a meeting of the Ocean Beach Planning Board Project Review Committee. We are a committee, basically a subset of the full board. And our duty here is to review projects, scrutinize projects, and provide feedback to the full board. And the full board that meets the first Wednesday of each month, they're the ones that make recommendations on projects and various other things. So for the applicant's sake, the cycle review regarding the community planning group depends on that vote at the full planning board. That said, we try to get in a little bit more detail here so that the meetings at the full board are a little bit more streamlined. So with that said, we're going to do introductions. My name is Kevin Hastings. I am vice chair of the OB Planning Board and chair this project committee. And could the other committee members introduce themselves as well?
My name is George McCullough. I am also part of the OB Planning Board representing District 5.
I'm Chris Chalupsky. I'm also on the Planning Board District 3.
And I'm Stephanie Villamizar, and I am on the OB Planning Board representing District 2.
Thank you, Stephanie. Your initials are going to show up as SV on the minutes here. So I am going to, I should have done this already. I'm going to open up the agenda just to get it on the screen. So the first order is to approve that agenda. Hang on just a second. Okay, the computer users should be able to see that. And screen out here. Make sure that's worse. So on agenda tonight, we're first going to reappoint committee officers. And then we have 2 development projects. And the last one is discussion on whether to return to in-person meetings or not. So with that said, can I get a comment or a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve.
I'll second that, Chris. Is anyone opposed to that? Speak up, otherwise I'll do a consent vote on this. Okay, I'm gonna call that 400 to approve. Okay, the minutes for the previous two meetings are in draft form and need to be approved. Let's give that a shot. These were distributed in advance. I will try and pull it up here anyways. And I'm not too worried about typos, but if there's something significant like the attendance or something major on the project, that would be the time to speak up. This one actually, this is January. This actually did include Coronado Avenue, which is back again tonight. A lot of comments. So if you haven't read that in advance, you may be missing out. Let's see here. Action item 2 was removed, and then we had actually two other. That was a long meeting in January. Again, it was rejected. Again, you should have these at your disposal. Could I get a motion on the January minutes? Looks like George was absent on that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept.
Thank you, George. I'll second that. Is anyone opposed? Does anyone abstain? Okay, I'm gonna call that 400 to approve. And then with regard to the February minutes. So this is February. Looks like George and Richard were absent on that. Santa Cruz project. Recommend approval. And what was it? Just that one project. Can I get a motion or comment on the February minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Chris. I will second that. Is anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? Okay.
I have a question. If you weren't present for the meeting, do you need to abstain or do you just not propose?
It's standard to abstain.
Okay,
One issue though is the minutes might never get approved if, especially
Right.
with the committee changing hands. So you're not required to.
okay,
I guess it's up to you. You know, the meetings are, the videos are available online typically, and I would trust a committee member to make that judgment. But you're free to abstain if you'd like. Hearing none, I'm going to call that 400 to approve. Okay. And I'll get the agenda back on the screen here. Non-agenda public comment. That time is now. If you are a member of the board or the public, and you have anything you want to discuss within the purview of the board that is not these two particular projects, speak up. Check the chat. Do we have a chat box on this? Okay, hearing none, I will move on to action item number 1. This is appointment of committee officers. So we have a chair, a vice chair, and secretary. Chair is sort of a standing policy, is that the vice chair of the full board is the chair of this committee. It's not actually in the bylaws though, so it's not required. Of course, the chair prepares, deals with applicants, queues them up, sets the agenda, runs the meeting. Vice chair of this committee it's not a huge role. Basically, you're there in case I get run over by a truck on the way to the meeting or can't attend for some reason. And then you would fulfill all the chair duties. And then secretary duty is just the recording of minutes. So let's see here. So I'm kind of the de facto chair as vice chair of the board, and I don't mind continuing in that role. If anyone would like to nominate anyone for any of these other positions or nominate themselves, speak up or nominate myself. Well, I'll start. I'll put my name out there for chairing the committee. I think that's just easiest.
I second that. If that's a motion, Kevin, can you motion to have yourself designated as the chair?
You know what? This is George. I'll motion to have Kevin designated as the chair.
And then I'll second it.
That works. Any discussion?
Yeah, don't get hit by a truck.
Okay, is anyone opposed to that? Does anyone abstain? Make sure we still have a quorum here. Richard, do you happen to be on the Zoom yet? All right, by consent, I'm going to call that a 4-0-0 vote. Vice chair. Last year, that was Chris, sort of against his will, but I didn't miss any meetings and he didn't really have to do much. Sometimes if we go to in-person meetings, it gets a little bit more involved, especially if there's something controversial, the vice chair might have to step in. Maybe the chair has to go, take a bathroom break. I mean, it's fairly informal on the committees though. Is anyone willing to step up for that?
This is George. If Chris doesn't want to continue, I'll take a shot at it.
Thank you, George.
Oh, it's all yours, George.
Gracias, senor.
And if we're doing, remote still, then you gotta deal with some of the technology end of it as well, so.
I think that was the only thing that came up. One time in the last year was, I think I was your backup plan for Zoom or something, Kevin, but that was it.
Yeah, some of these I'm running the meeting while driving home.
Mhm.
All right, I'll nominate George as vice chair. Do we have a second for that? Did you second that one, Chris? I don't know.
I will second it, sure.
Okay. Is anyone opposed to that? Does anyone abstain from that? Okay, by consent, I'm gonna call that a 4-0-0. And now secretary. I've been doing that over the past year. It's a little bit tedious, but it doesn't necessarily have to have as much detail as I've been putting in the minutes. If anyone is interested in taking on the secretary role, or nominating someone to speak up. I realize it's a lot of obligation already, so taking on more is, I'm not gonna really expect that of anyone. I'm happy you guys are here. I'll continue the secretary duties if you'll have me.
I nominate you for secretary, Kevin.
Thank you.
George seconds.
Second, George. Anyone opposed? Does anyone abstain? Okay, I'm calling that a 4-0-0 vote. And with that said, our first project is at 4705 Point Loma Avenue. That's South OB, not West Point Loma. That's Point Loma Avenue down by kind of by Sunset Cliffs. This is a coastal permit to demolish the existing commercial building. It's I think it's an old hardware store that's been vacant for quite a while, and constructing 2 multi-family buildings for a total of 8 units. And it's actually in the commercial zone. Tim and anyone else presenting on this, I will give you the ability to screen share documents. And if you need any assistance on that end, let me know. So basically, I'll give you a chance to sort of cover the basics of the project. If any of the board members have any clarification questions, I'd like that to follow that. Or if it's real quick, you know, maybe pipe in. And then after that, we'll go to public comment. And after that, we'll go to board member comment and motions. So with that said, Tim, the floor is yours.
Kevin, have you shared screen, or can I share screen with you then? So
You should have screen sharing privileges.
it looks like I do.
Okay.
How about that? Okay, great. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. I'm not sure if anybody else has done a density bonus, affordable housing density bonus project in OB yet. So there may be as many questions on that concept as the project itself, but I'm going to tear through it and kind of we can double back if there are questions on either issue then. Site-wise, this is just Point Loma Avenue here. We are on the corner over here, which is the southwest corner of the intersection. I guess it's Evers or Evers, depending which way you pronounce it. A couple more screenshots. This green color is our site right across the street from some multifamily. Commercial adjacent to us. It was an existing commercial facility that's been closed for a while that we will be tearing down. And just another site view, sort of looking towards the southwest, showing the corner. We have an alley in the rear, Evers in the side, and then Point Loma Avenue in the front. The lot itself is almost 7,500 square feet, just for reference, and we'll get into that in a second. Context-wise, I'll go through these. These are the existing shots looking down Point Loma Avenue to the ocean. And then just a couple more zoom ins of the commercial building that's there right now that will be replaced. And a couple shots. This is of the alley and the side yard as well too. The alley is improved to its full city distance, the 20 feet that they desire. This is the side, the west side of the building itself, which has a thoroughfare drive-through. That's important. We'll get to that in a second as well too, which is worth noting. And directly across the street, multifamily, and then looking more towards the commercial corner, which has a 2-story building across on it as well too. mixed use sort of thing. And then the commercial storefront that's down the street sort of gives you a good idea on that. Project data real quick. This is us right here in the corner of the two intersections there. We are CT42 in the zoning right now, which is a commercial core zone, allows mixed use by right. And the concept of the affordable housing density bonus we're applying for this is basically in order to qualify with a certain percentage of affordable housing, the city grants you several things in return as incentives to do that, including a density bonus, as the name professes, and then also what are called development incentives, which are ways to help enable the project to be built or constructed in a manner that maximizes the possible units, because as we all know, the city is pushing hard for units anywhere and everywhere. This is a quick table that shows the path that we have chosen, and basically says if you're over 15% affordable housing based on the original density, then you can get a 50% density bonus, and you can get up to 5 development incentives. We aren't using 5 on this project, we're only actually using 3, but we are using the 50% density bonus, which I'll get into in just a second on the math showing you what's going on. It is an 8-unit project. We've split the project into 4 on the west side, 4 on the east side, and then the drive lane is between those, which accesses the parking garage. It's fairly typical kind of left and right, east and west, whatever you want to call it, sort of setup to it, which greatly reduces the mass of the building, the size, the perceived bulk and scale of the building. These are all right about 1,200 square foot units, just for reference sake. So you know, approximately they're all 2 bedrooms, basically 2 or 2.5 bath units as well. And then the parking table, basically, we'll get into this in a little more detail because this is probably one that needs to be discussed, is we are required 8 spaces total, being in the affordable housing density bonus program. We have provided 13 on-site spaces in lieu of the 8 that are required. So we are, by the city's tables, 5 parking spaces more than what is required. And then go through the plans. This is the existing site plan. This is the outline of the building that's on the corner and the thoroughfare that I talked about. One of the things to note is there is currently a curb cut here on Point Loma Avenue that accesses this sort of throughway or zany parking that they had on the side. We are closing that curb cut and replacing it with an access off the alley, which is required in the coastal zone. But it is important to note that we'll be giving that back for additional street parking in the frontage, street trees, and all that development. But there will be no more access off Point Loma Avenue, and never was any and won't be any off Evers either. So as we get into the site plan development, here's the site plan
Tim,
itself.
sorry to interrupt. Do you have the, can you bump that up to full screen on Adobe there?
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's pretty good there.
Yeah, that's about as far as I think I can get.
Okay, thank you.
This is a quick site plan for orientation, Point Loma, Evers, the alley. Here's 4 units on this side, 4 units on that side. They're very similar to each other, but they are not identical flips because there's all kinds of baggage that comes in with visibility triangles, which you can see dictated here, ADA access, stuff like that. So they're very similar to being 4 on each side. And there's a little roof element that sort of connects the buildings across the drive lane. This is the drive lane that accesses all the parking, so that's important to note. So you're coming off of the alley right down the center. That's the full width. It's actually in excess of what the city requires for a turning and drive lane radius. So pretty much as we flip over to the floor plan, the ground floor is pretty much all parking. 2-car garage, 2-car garage, 2 cars, 2 cars, and then the front ones are 1-car garage, simply because the space needed for the stairs and the access way. And then as we go up in the units, the second floor itself is primarily all the living. It's your kitchen, dining, family room kind of thing. Balconies on all the units that face the outside, again, which breaks up the facade a little bit. And then the top floor, 3rd floor is basically bookended 2 bedrooms, sort of a dual master setup kind of thing. in all of the units there. And then we do have roof decks, which you go outside and go up a stairway to the roof deck itself. And again, these are similar but not identical between east and west models. There's a number of reasons for that, but they're program-wise, they're very similar. And then the roof deck itself, each unit has their private outdoor space on the roof deck. As you can imagine, by the time that you're up at this level, there are some pretty darn good views there. So this is really where we felt people would spend the most of their time in an outdoor situation versus anything at grade or anything on a balcony kind of setup. Into the elevations, I'm gonna just kind of buzz through these for the sake of time because we have 3D color renderings, so that's much more helpful to understand. This is a section that shows the west and the east side that are split up, and then the drive lane in between there. But again, it's much easier to see on the renderings. Landscape plan, quickly showing that we are providing street trees, brand new ones along Evers. And in the front, the trees will be maintained. And then there is a fair amount of landscaping on the corners and the walkway that gets you to the access of the 4 western units. The 4 eastern units are direct walk up off the sidewalk. And then here's the renderings. I'll spend a little time on these. Here is the 2 buildings. We basically got the east building, the west building. The east building is slightly different because the visibility triangle that occurs there, and we carved away the upper floor. We did not want to meet this corner with full-on 30-foot tall box or anything like that. So we've done some significant carving away the mass on the corner. Then you have the gap in between, which is the drive lane, and then done the same thing over on the other side as well too. It is sort of a coastal Cape Cod sort of style to it, with the black windows, the white siding, the black roofing and stuff like that. The decorative ornamental railings, and then just using the landscape and street trees where we can to kind of help with the massing as well. And then this is a more aerial shot, starts to show you where the roof decks are and the full gap between the building. There is, I mean, you can look right through this project to the back. So it will appear as more of 2 skinny projects instead of one big one sort of sandwiched together. And this is sort of the west side, showing the outside stairs up to the roof decks. Again, the balconies on the 2nd floor. 3rd floor are just what we call Juliet balconies because they're bedrooms. But again, you can kind of see the character and the walkway that is on the west side that gets to those units in the back as well too. And then a shot looking sort of down the street from the storefront, showing the building, the west side building that faces that, and the east side building is after the gap for the drive lane. And then one sort of looking more from east of the project, looking back down at, again, balconies on the east side as well too. And we've tried to break up, again, there's a big stairway in here that kind of breaks up the mass. Doing everything we can between materials that are different on the ground floor, so it looks like a 2-story over the parking, as opposed to a 3-story pure box kind of building. Going back a little bit to the affordable housing regulations, again, you get a density bonus of up to 50%. And what we've done is take advantage of that 50% and the up to 5 incentives. So I'm going to walk through these incentives real quick. And then again, the incentives by the Land Development Code are defined as anything that assists you in allowing the density to be maximized. So these in this project are fairly simple to understand. Incentive number 1 is basically we are zone CC42, which requires the front portion of the lot to be commercial. As we all know, this commercial hasn't worked on this corner for a long time. So we've opted to do more housing, the density units, which can then feed the existing commercial that's already on the street. So incentive number 1 basically says, instead of doing mixed use, we are going with just residential units on this corner. Incentive number 2 is the code in the RM zones, which is what's deferred to out of the CC42 zone when you're doing mixed use, does require common open space for all units to share. And basically what we're doing is saying we're avoiding that and doing more private outdoor space. as opposed to typically this would be something that would be a lawn area that has barbecues for shared use or picnic tables or, you know, kind of outdoor furniture, something like that. In order to get the 8 units on this site, we really don't have that kind of ground floor footprint that would be a communal use. So what we did is we boosted the private use between the balconies and the roof decks so that it's overqualified for that, and then used an incentive to scrub the requirement for the common outdoor space. And the third, this sort of shows, you know, where we've got the balconies on all the units circled in red there, and then oversized roof decks as well too for each unit to partake in a more private sort of setting for that. And then our third incentive deals with the landscaping. Technically for our landscape, half of the required planting points are supposed to be achieved with trees located within the street yards, which is our setbacks. But we chose to incentivize this out for 2 reasons. One is we're required to give an additional 4 feet dedication in the front of the project along Point Loma Avenue, because it is right now basically a 6 foot, I think, frontage where it's supposed to be 10 for the sidewalk. So we'll be giving that to the city, improving it, paving it. But one of the things that we wanted to do was to be able to hold these street trees. The city doesn't allow you to do palms anymore for street trees because they don't have enough of a canopy effect. But these, because they were mature and they fit that street grid that goes on both sides of Point Loma Avenue, we wanted to retain those. So technically those should have been pushed inside our setback. And so what we did is we requested the ability to do street trees to remain in the front and then new ones on the side that are in the right of way. And per this landscaping plan right here, you can see these are the existing palm trees to remain. And you'll have still plenty of feet, 10 feet outside the beltway of those to walk along Point Loma Avenue. And then we'll be adding 4 street trees on Evers that are in planters and still have plenty of sidewalk width around them. So rather than chopping up this unit and putting the tree inside our property line, we went to the public right of way as an incentive, and the city has accepted that. So that pretty much sums up the nature of the project. It is worth noting that just from a zoning perspective, if you've been watching from the California Coastal Commission, they did just approve 2 weeks ago, I think now, complete communities. This property is actually in complete communities. The yellow zoning there and the arrow points to our site. So again, those are a couple things that's important. Those are lots that are designated by the city where they want high density placed into those locations. And the complete communities is a program that, because it wasn't available when we started this, we didn't choose to go there, but it is now an option just looking down the road, or could be used for this site as well too. So that is pretty much the quick version. Obviously, we're here for any and all questions, anything you might be able to explain, and turn it over to you guys.
Thanks. If you could leave your screen share up.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask that, so that's
Any
fine.
of the drawings. I don't know that you had all the drawings necessarily here, but I can open them up if you don't.
I do have the whole set, and I have what we've, they're a little larger in my PowerPoint, so it might be easier to do that.
And these were all distributed in advance to anyone that signed up for the email list, as well as the board members.
Oh, Kevin, one thing, if I can start to interrupt, I should have mentioned, didn't, is the project is now fully approved by the city of San Diego. Our last clearance is in fact presentation to you guys.
Okay. And which would be the first Wednesday of the month, which is coming up in a few weeks. So this is our first tack at it. I did receive a public comment by email. Let me see here. While I'm finding that, is there a member of the public here that wishes to comment on this? Let's see here.
I have a quick comment.
Go
So
ahead.
I'm a resident in the area there right now, and the street parking is definitely an issue, especially with the Lauren Walker School right next door to it. In the morning at 8 and 3 p.m., there are tons of cars that are driving by there, and they use this sidewalk right in front of here to drop off their kids. And having their kids walk across, it's very hectic in the morning. That is a concern to me. I know they added more parking spots to their design. Granted, if people use their garage for parking versus 2 cars is another question. And then I'd also kind of question the, having rooftop decks that have ocean views, fitting the requirement of affordable housing for this area. And those are my main comments.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody else from the public on this one? Okay, hearing none. Did you want to respond to that at all, Tim? You don't
Yeah,
have.
sure. I mean, we sort of touched on it that we are in fact closing an existing curb cut on Point Loma Avenue. So maybe that doesn't move the needle to solve Warren Walker's staging problem. I don't know any elementary school that doesn't have drop-off issues at 8 and 3, but it is better. We certainly aren't taking our primary access off anything but the alley. And we did strive to, this client of ours is a firm believer in parking, even though the city is trying to seemingly push in the opposite direction. There was a marketability standpoint, so they did strive to get as many spaces as they could. There's been sort of a general public misconception of any affordable project has no parking, and that's simply not true in this case. We have 13 spaces provided where 8 are technically required. So we are trying to balance between providing units and the density that the city wants, with a reasonable amount of parking that doesn't have a cumulative effect on neighborhoods over time or anything like that too.
All right.
Can you bring up your photos of your first few slides?
Sure.
And you'll see the number of cars on the street there with the apartment complex being closed.
I noticed the parking is diagonal there, and then the next block it's not. Maybe it's residential on the next block up. So there is a turn lane there as well.
This is still CC42 right here, and that's it. After that, it goes pure residential. This obviously is single family back here to the south of us.
I think with the way that left turn lane is there, it's going to be hard for the transportation to stripe diagonal spots all the way to the end there.
Yeah, and I believe part of the reason that this particular diagonal parking doesn't continue all the way to the corner is the access for this driveway along the side of our property. And by the time you've done that, there really, as you say, isn't room to do any more diagonal. And I think there's a red zone right at the corner, and then there's green zone to the west of that because of the commercial use. But all of that would be turned back, so you're probably looking at additional 3 or 4 parallel spaces like there is in the east of the property. If you, let me see if I can get it. Yeah, there you go. You got a handicap, a commercial, and a red zone. So the commercial will go away, of course, and assuming the handicap was also justified for this. So I would assume you'd get 3 spaces, parallel park there now.
Yeah, I would be curious if there's an alternative handicap spot close to the commercial zone there. I think the city will make that determination.
Yeah, transportation always has that criteria, or somebody specifically requested it.
I also noticed on that access off Point Loma Avenue, it looks like maybe the neighbors are using some of that for parking from the alley.
Yeah,
The
I can.
Sunny's restaurant or whatever that is next to it.
Yeah, this is, you can see there is some of it that's being used for parking right now, so,
Oh, okay. Okay, the stuff left of those posts is the other property.
yep, correct.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna throw a few questions at you while other people can think of what they want to comment. You showed the palm trees on Point Loma Avenue. There's 3 existing. The landscape seemed to show many more of those going in. Are those additional palms going in or something else?
It is, let me zip over to that, and I will admit that our SketchUp modeling, our 3D modeling, doesn't have we showed palm trees just because when we did the model early on, these will actually be canopy trees legal from the city. There's a whole like 5 or 6 list of acceptable trees there.
Yeah.
Anything.
What trees are those exactly? Those canopy trees?
Right now they're what they call a such as list, which is, I believe it's like jacaranda, Cape Myrtle, stuff like that, that are all in there. But it's the canopy the city wants to reduce the heat island effect of urban areas. So
What about along Point Loma Avenue there? What are the new ones that are going in?
these are small ones, and so they're primarily the 2 existing palm trees that are on our frontage will remain.
Okay.
And this is lower planting. It's in the beltway between the curb and the sidewalk.
Okay. And, oh, so I mean, are those like shrubs then, or?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And then the area that's around those, is that pervious or paved?
Yes, yes. No, it's pervious.
Okay. And then the other ones, the canopy trees, looks like they have kind of a
It's the
grate or
4 by 6 tree grate that they require
Okay.
around it. You can see that hatching in each one of those, the tree trunks.
All right. And you mentioned the affordable criteria. Can you clarify the number of units, the affordability level,
Sure.
and the duration of that deed restriction?
It is a 55-year deed restriction. And I know I have a slide here, so just bear with me while I find that one. I think it's back up here under the project data. It's 55-year restriction. Basically, we have to have at least 15% of the original unit density units dedicated.
And what is that original density? Is that
Original density is 5. Here we go. This should help. So it's 7404 or 7405 square feet. We're entitled to 5 units right now.
okay?
And so we're proposing one of them at a very low affordable rate, which is the lowest. You have low, very low, and moderate. So
What's very low? What AMI is that? Do you recall?
it's about 50%, I think.
Okay, so that's like, I think it's like 45,000 a year or 50,000 a year for.
Yeah, so we always just roughly use half of what the normal would be by the time you run it through that filter, the AMI and all that. So at the base unit of 5, we're required at least 15%. We're actually providing 20% just because it's 1 of 5 is the affordable. And with that, we get the 50% bonus applied to the 5 units, which is 7.5, and you round up to 8. So that's how we get to the 8 units being allowed under this program.
Okay.
I'm sorry for skipping this slide. My finger was
No, that's
scrolling too fast.
just making sure I got the basics covered here. The Point Loma Avenue frontage, the original rendering showed, perfect, leave it there, showed sort of an opening into the building in the middle there.
Yes.
It looks like that's no longer the case. Is that a wall? Is that a door access? What's going on there?
This is just a roof feature that connects the two buildings. So
Mhm.
there's, you can actually stand right here where the bike parking is and look through to the alley. And then from upstairs, it's completely open as well. So this is just a roof awning that allows us for a number of more building permit and technical reasons
Okay.
to be able to run gas lines above grade and water and electric, all that kind of stuff. So this is merely a connection between the two buildings, but everything else is open. There is
What
no-
about those black, are those doors or what's that on that
Sorry.
wall there? Is that-
This is a garage door down here that you're seeing beyond. And this is that drive lane. And you cannot,
Oh, so I'm looking right through the buildings there. It's
correct.
in there.
correct.
Okay, I got
This,
you. So it's
this
wide
is
open.
the garage that's beyond.
I got you.
I'll get back to the site. So you're seeing the garage doors right here. If you're seeing
Gotcha.
the house, Kevin, and you're
Okay, so it's
looking
just a
through,
short
and
variant.
that little roof feature is just right here.
All right, and then the bikes, are those tucked under
Those
overhead?
are tucked under that roof area. That's
Okay.
one of the reasons we added the roof, was to sort of provide some shade and protection there as well too.
Let's see here. What else did I have? I think the height, it was right at 30 feet from the,
I mean, we're 6
Postal
inches
measurement?
under. Yeah, we're 6 inches under, which gives us just enough room to get the plumbing vents out and stuff like that without going under or over.
is there any solar going on this?
Yes, the remainder that isn't roof deck, which is, we have these, we sort of call them mansard roofs or chamfered roofs all the way around. Those will be filled with solar.
And that's going to give you enough for the energy code?
Yep. Yeah, actually more than enough.
Okay.
Because the nice thing is, like over here, you can see we have a chamfer that's facing east, so it's going to pick up the morning. And then we have the same chamfer on the west, so they're going to get both east and west exposure.
Okay. And the, all these units have exterior access down to the sidewalk or that sort of setback on the west
Yeah.
side?
The west side, it's a sort of private sidewalk, if you will, or walkway that gets you to the front doors there. But all the units, there's no front doors, if you will, in the drive lane. The drive lane is only garage doors.
All right, but the garages have direct access to the units as well?
Correct, yes. Once you've pulled in, you stay inside and go up to your unit.
All right. All right, I think it's pretty clear. The changes from the initial submittal, I noticed it moved back 4 feet along Point Loma Avenue. I don't know that all of the renderings necessarily reflect that.
They probably don't. The site plans do, the landscape plans do. They're fully updated.
What's the reasoning for that, moving back 4 feet?
It's the existing right of way based on the city's street design manual for all of Point Loma Avenue. It has a certain, I forget what the center line, the property line, and then property line to the edge of sidewalk and all that are, but they're 4 feet shy of that design manual.
Okay,
And so we had spent some time with the city, working with them, negotiating, seeing if originally we had tried to incentivize that out because nobody else has it. And it's one of those weird things, you're gonna be walking eastbound on Point Loma on our side, and all of a sudden sidewalks can get 4 feet wider. So we wanted to make sure that didn't, end up being something that was used in the wrong possible light or anything like that. They would not incentivize it out because of its any number of reasons. It's transportation requirements. So eventually everybody will have the same additional width when they redevelop. So it was just the matter of that the curb to property line was not adequate. And I think it was, we had 10 existing and 14 was what was in the street design manual.
yeah, I mean, I've got, I think, 20 feet at my place. The incentives, those are all checked off at DSD,
Yes.
but I'm assuming this is process two or
Two.
three, two? Oh, I'm kind of surprised it's only process two. So basically the decision maker will make the call on that based on, mostly on DSD.
Yeah. They usually defer to the planner most of the time. Planning is signed off.
All right. Okay, I've got some actual opinions on this, but let's see. Does anyone else want to give it a go first?
Yeah, this is George. I had a couple of questions. I noticed from some of the documents earlier, the reviewers raised some parking issues. From what you said, I assume those have been taken care of.
Yeah, it's strange. This is, you get this sometimes with new reviewers, is that because we were over parked, they did not like the method in which we showed the parking tables. And they actually wanted us to show what was required. We were just showing that it was 13 spaces. And we were content because it was over parked. They actually wanted us to go back in and add a column to that table to show what is truly required, which is the 8 spaces, and then put an additional column next to it showing what's provided. So they wanted this side by side, what's required, what's provided. We were only showing the provided. Since it was over the sort of minimums required, we didn't worry about it, but they wanted it, the table, if you read the transportation comments, wanted the table adjusted.
Okay, so really nothing changed. They just wanted it to look different.
Absolutely correct. Could not
Okay.
have said it better.
Now, the second thing is there was something also about water demand.
Yes, this is something that occasionally the engineering department will ask for, is a water and sewer study, which is a demand study. And what they have the civil engineer do is it's an analysis of what is the existing demand, what's the proposed demand, and whether it's an infrastructure comment. And so what they want is an analysis to make sure that the pipes or the underground, pipes servicing this area, and it's a broad-based area, it's like a mile radius, are deemed adequate for the use that's proposed. It's really meant, honestly, for projects like in Mission Valley that are proposing 2,000 units and stuff like that. An 8 unit, the commercial demand is actually higher than the 8 units we're proposing. It's there now. So it was just, we had to provide a study and show what the service area pipes and sewers are and stuff like that. There are areas in town where you will hit it and they will start asking questions about, you only have a 6-inch sewer line coming down the alley. How are you going to feed it if you're providing 20 or 30 units or something like that? So it was pretty much just dotting I's and crossing T's on the study.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing else.
Hey, George. I guess I'll shoot. Architecturally speaking, there's a lot of offsets and balconies and stuff that I know you didn't have to do, and so that's appreciated. The roof line and all that, I think is a good start. Just to try to minimize that. It could have been pushed out a little bit further up in the corners and block even more. I do think this is, it's kind of a mixed bag. It provides a little bit of affordability. I mean, 1 unit, people should realize the catch with all these affordability benefits is they base it all on the base zoning of the building. So if you build a 100-unit complex and the base zoning actually only allowed 10, that 25% affordable, whatever, that's based on actual 10 units, not 100 units. So, so here we have 8 units with 1 being affordable. So keep that in mind. But affordability is certainly a big issue here. And I think that that weighs on people's decision. The lack of outdoor space, that's more of a municipal code thing, but our community plan does speak to that sort of engagement with the sidewalk and the pedestrian area. And it also provides a little bit of breathing room and some setbacks. I realize that can impact density. I think this sort of built like a fortress here, with the garage walls around the ground floor and really no sort of engagement there on the ground level. I think it's a missed opportunity. At least maybe like a podium deck or something could provide some kind of patio group patio space and meet that part of the community plan. So it's just, I think there's a couple community plan issues just in the pursuit of maximum density here that are overlooked. The lack of outdoor space also, you're asking them to consider roof decks as a substitute for that?
Yes, just because we have the private outdoor space per unit
Yeah,
is a relatively minimal, it's like 60 square feet.
yeah, I get it. It's small, but it's
More
a
like-
space for a barbecue, you know, some outdoor stuff, a place for your dog to go pee. It can be safe for kids. A roof deck provides none of those things. You know, I'm not gonna let my children up on that roof deck, you know, for example, unless I've got a leash on them. Same with the dog. You know, what's the dog gonna do on a roof deck? He's gonna pee on the neighbor's window. So there's a lot of benefits to having that outdoor patio space, ground level space, you know, real connection with the earth rather than, you know, up on a roof deck. These roof decks, you know, they mostly just get used to throw vacation rental parties and annoy the neighbors. So I think that's a real loss here. I think that could have been accommodated without having a major impact on the density. One thing I also noticed is it uses a raised planter box to measure the 30-foot height.
Yes.
I guess it depends on which elevation you're looking at. This is kind of flat showing here. It's not, it's actually more of a hill. So I mean, the building is, you know, it's about 30 feet, 35 feet high on one end and I think 32 on the other, give or take, from the actual sidewalk level. So it's, I do understand the DSD interpretation is very builder friendly on that. And you're well aware of that, I know. I just want to make that clear for the record. The parking area inside, it looked like a lot of concrete and it slopes towards the alley.
Mhm.
And there was just a small, like a small grass strip or something that separated the two. Yeah.
Yeah, at each garage, this is concrete and then this is pavers.
Okay.
Interlocking pavers that come across. And in between each of the garage doors, we have at-grade planting
Okay.
on each side in between, just to sort of break it up. So it doesn't feel like it's a, you know, an alley or alley extension.
Are those
kind of thing.
pervious then? Those pavers?
Pardon me?
Are those pavers pervious? Is the rain gonna
Yes.
go through?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I thought it was all sloping to the left, so they actually are gonna interrupt some of that runoff. Is that?
Yes, very much so.
And then the roof drains, where are those going to?
Roof drains come down basically into, on this side, they come down in that walkway, which is
Okay.
those planters. And then on this side, they come down either to a planter here or a planter in the corner up front here.
All right. All right, I appreciate that. I think that, you know, the paving issues looks as good as it's gonna get for this type of property. I would also mention, the sidewalk vending ordinance passed. And I know it's supposed to be prohibited in front of residences or at least residential zones. Be wary of providing lots of paving or wide paving because you may invite a permanent, guy selling marijuana gummies in front of your building or something. You know?
Yeah, and even to your other point too, we tried to take the 4-foot additional dedication and plant it, and the city rejected it. They wanted it paved.
Yeah, I think the city is basically only requiring a minimum 4-foot width as far as actual sidewalk usability, and the rest has become fair game for
Yeah,
all
so
sorts of stationary uses.
that may or may not ever happen here, but we're on your side and we wanted to use that at 4-foot dedication, at least in the time being, until the rest of the street catches up or the rest of the block catches up. we thought it'd be better as planting, but they said no.
I would recommend against not providing patio space because you think it might become welcoming to, transients and can't be secured. I think that's very dismissive of the community in general. This is a very nice neighborhood here. It's a shame the commercial district is just sort of decayed and apparently the rents are not reasonable. But frankly, I think engagement with the sidewalk and use of those areas is exactly what deters, bad behavior. When you have a kind of walled off section, you end up with people just don't care about the space and it gets dismissed and it can get taken over, whether it's with graffiti or encampment. So I think actually walling off encourages that bad behavior. That's all I have. I think Chris and Stephanie, if you have anything you want to throw in there, but otherwise I want to move on and get some kind of vote on this.
Kevin, I think there was a public comment on this, or maybe there's about to be. I know you circulated something, and it was kind of just in line with my questions about scale for height. I'm not sure if that's what the public comment. I'm referring to the comment that you circulated. I'm sorry, actually, the public comment on this item was made, wasn't it? It was about the school, the nearby school. You're muted.
Yeah, that's been covered.
Okay,
I was surprised there wasn't more.
that was it for this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that there was some reference given to the community plan here in the aesthetic design of the facade and whatnot. It is what it is. I kind of agree. It's challenging when you've got a lot like this and you're trying to, build multiple units. It's not the worst thing I've seen. It's not the best, but I don't see any fatal flaws that we could really, as a planning board, call out. So I think that's my comment.
All right, I'll give Stephanie a chance if she wants to mention anything, or if anyone wants to put forward a motion. And just, I would recommend don't go off just your own opinion, but let's help the applicant out and kind of pretend you're the entire board and you understand what the board's going to do. So we want to give them something constructive.
I just wanted to make a comment that the only kind of missed opportunity I really see, and a lot of it goes in line with what Kevin was saying, is that on the west side, although you do provide balcony space, if the neighboring property gets sold and developed and you have a really high wall going in, those balconies kind of become undesirable and potentially unused. So I just kind of see that as a missed opportunity. And just because also I see that they're covered with the floor plan above, so they just become really enclosed. But other than that, yeah, that was my comment.
Thank you, Stephanie. Anybody want to give a motion a shot? I don't know if I should on this one.
Yeah, this is George. I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second on that? No second.
Well, are we approving? So if we approve, is it a motion to approve the project? And if so, if we got if we had a unanimous vote to approve, then that goes on the consent agenda for the next board meeting. Is that right?
Yeah, generally speaking, if it's a unanimous vote without any conditions for approval,
Right.
we try to put it on the consent agenda just to give more time to other items, so that it kind of gets, usually approved as a formality at the full meeting at that point.
Right.
Of course,
So, George-
anyone can pull it off of that consent agenda from the public or the board if they choose to at the meeting.
Yep. So George, are you motioning to approve the project as is?
Yes,
Okay.
And if someone doesn't want to second that, they can offer up some friendly amendments or if there's no second, that motion's going to die. All right, I don't see a second.
I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm withholding a second because I do feel like this is a project that the full board would want to hear. That's why I asked the question about the consent. I understand that anyone on the board could ask the item to be taken off consent and discussed. So I'm not seconding it because we probably need at least one dissenting vote so that the full board can discuss that. That's my position on this.
Well, you don't. I'll make it easy for you. I'm going to vote against it, recommending it at this meeting. So if the rest of you guys support it, it won't be a consent item.
Well, that's what I was saying, Kevin. So we basically, yeah, somebody has to vote against approving it as is. So you're filling that role, I guess. So with that being said, I mean, well, I don't know. How do you want to do it? You want to second it and then vote against it? What do you want to do?
I'm not going to second George's motion.
Neither am I.
All right. All right. Well, George's motion is dead on arrival. Does someone have an alternative motion? You know, could be something with conditions.
I would motion to have this project reviewed by the full board.
Without a recommendation?
I'm open to a friendly amendment.
I mean, it's gonna get viewed by the full board regardless. So can we provide them with project committee feedback or recommendation based on what we've seen here?
I think you had the most lengthy notes, Kevin, so pick a few and those could be our recommendations. I think the one you just brought up about the sidewalk and paving might be a good one.
We can also not make a positive or negative recommendation here and just kind of bring to light those particular community plan items. It's going to just make a dragged out full board meeting on it as well, but if it deserves it, then so be it. I do think this is going to sail right through the city. So that's kind of my only hesitation here. Man, I just don't think this is compatible with the community plan. I mean, there's a lot of stuff about walling off. You know, it's adjacent to a view corridor. It's just a 30-foot high building taking up the full, you know, north-south dimension of that property. I would, you know, whether or not the city supports it, I would recommend that the board recommend the project be denied. There's a lot of significant changes here that I just don't see happening. It would be a total redesign to accommodate the community plan. So let me make that simple. I would recommend that the full board deny it based on the arrangement of the structures. Let's see here. Blocking off public views. Community plan figure 4.6.
Kevin, can I interrupt and ask what public view are we blocking off?
Basically, when you're adjacent to the view corridors, you're adjacent to the, in this case, the downhill east-west views. And so it calls for, when, you know, dividing up the buildings to gap those in that dimension, east to west, as opposed to north-south, which is not useful for any of the adjacent areas. So anyone that's uphill from this, you know, they're staring at the long end of this property.
But that, per the community plan, that's not a public view of a private property. It's a public view down the public right away.
I get that, but it applies beyond that. It applies adjacent to view corridors. There's a diagram in page UD 59 of the plan. And it just talks about building arrangement to maximize those views. I realize the view corridor itself is physically within the public right of way of Loma Avenue. I understand that. So let me finish. So based on the building spacing that deviates from the community plan figure 4.6, and based on the lack of ground level patio space and courtyard space, which is also part of the community plans. That's what I've got. The full board members may disagree. Some of them will vote in support because they think it's futile, even if they don't like it. But that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, to that point, Kevin, I understand. I mean, obviously, we've heard from the applicant, this is very far along in the process. And so the likelihood of this passing through the city, I get it. You know, and I also understand that the role of this subcommittee is to make a recommendation. And if we can spare the full board from getting into the weeds of the details on these projects, that's what we're here to do. I just think when you're personally, I think when you're looking at a multi-unit project like this that has the nuances you just described, it warrants a discussion in front of the full board, and that's where I'm at. So I'm happy to second your motion. I think I heard it all, but maybe we want to repeat it just so we can get this moved on to the full board.
Yeah, let me try to be more succinct. Motion to recommend denial based on not complying with the community plan in regards to building spacing, figure 4.6, and the lack of ground level patios, courtyards, and interaction with the public right of way. Is that better?
Okay. I think short of the figure you cited, because I don't have the plan memorized and I don't have it pulled up, but I'll take your word for it. I think you mentioned another one about the view corridor. I'm familiar with that image, but didn't sound like that was part of the motion. So what you just described, I will second.
I printed it out, so I save a little time, but it sort of addresses how to, let's see here. Oh, he's got his screen sharing on here.
You want me to stop sharing, Kevin?
Yeah. And I don't know if that's clear. There's a page here. Oh, wow, that doesn't look clear at all. I think because
No, that's not, it's better when it's further away, but
now the background's blurring out. Basically, if you arrange the buildings with the narrow side aligned with the views, you have more spacing in between them. So it gives
right.
neighbors a chance to, and people in the public right away a chance to kind of see through. So you can provide potentially the same density and footprint, but just arrange them in a way that gives those sort of pathways. So that's my motion. Obviously, a positive board recommendation is not a requirement for project approval. And Chris seconded it. Any board member comment on that, or else I will call for a vote on that motion.
Okay, when I say a hand up, I don't know if if you want to call in public comment yet before we vote on it, but
we're running long. Zach, do you have a comment specific to this project?
Yes. Hi, everyone.
You're actually late for the public comment.
Yeah, I think I pressed the wrong button earlier. I'll make this quick. Sorry, Kevin, what are your reasons for denying the, moving to deny the project, the proposal?
The arrangement of the building, north-south, doesn't provide the spacing in the community plan. Between the buildings, which line up with the views. And also just the lack of courtyard space and patio space down at the ground level for, private use as well as common use.
Okay, so would a ground level patio be, oh, sorry, my cat knocked it
So like the
Um,
courtyard units that we have around town where you have a bunch of units, they have a common kind of access courtyard space.
Right, right, right.
Use it,
But isn't that what the rooftop deck is kind of attempting to substitute for?
I mean, it looks
I
like.
mean, I don't really know what the functional difference would be.
The rooftop deck is more of a compartmentalized, I think, private space for each user, and definitely not at the ground level.
Right, but you mentioned that there might be a possibility of short-term rental parties on the rooftop deck. Why wouldn't they happen in a shared courtyard or a patio?
It's possible, but the patios and the ground level stuff is, I think it's a lot more family friendly and it's a lot more neighborhood friendly as well.
How's that?
Are you here to make some comment? We got to move on. If you have some comment on it, go ahead.
I'm just asking about your rationale for moving to deny the proposal.
I think I've explained it pretty well. I mean, we want a community with developments that engage the public right of way, not walled off sort of castles in the sky. And that's really the simplest way to put it.
Is that how you would characterize this development, this proposal?
Yes.
Thank you.
All that for basically one affordable unit. So it's a big trade-off.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna call for a vote on that motion that you heard previously. I'm gonna do a roll call vote here. Chris,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Did Richard show up? I don't see him here.
No, I haven't seen him.
So that's a 4-0-0 recommendation that the full board deny it. You're welcome to cruise on ahead with that, Tim. And
Yeah, we will.
against that recommendation, or you're welcome to, try and make some adjustments to win some people over. But with that said, our next full board meeting is first Wednesday, and if you have all the major stuff cleared, which it sounds like, you're certainly entitled to that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Now we're quite a bit behind here, so hopefully this next one's a little faster. I will try my best. Action item number 3 is 4953 Coronado Avenue. And this came to us in January. It's an existing residence on Coronado. This is an RM24 zone. And they're building a garage in the back with a ADU on top of that. And the original one, if you recall, was on the lot line and 30 feet tall. And the board recommended, I think, basically going back to the drawing board. And the applicant is here with some amendments to that proposal. So Kim or Maureen, you have the ability to screen share on this.
Okay, can you hear me? This is Kim. Can you hear me, Kevin?
You're breaking up. I don't know if that's your mic or your connection.
Yeah, I think it's my connection. I'm gonna have Marie to this connection problem.
Your audio is almost unintelligible. So maybe if you can address
Okay.
present the project. You can also call in. You might have a better shot at that. The call-in number is on
Okay,
the,
if you give me a second, I'll go ahead and try to call in. If you
okay,
can hear me, I'll try to call in.
yeah, you just won't be able to see.
I just need.
I'm gonna mute these other callers here. Not sure who they are. If you're one of the two people with just the phone number showing up, I have put you on mute just to minimize background noise.
You have not. Please enter the meeting password followed by pound.
Kevin, can you hear that? This is Kim.
But I think that's worse. Can you mute your?
No.
Try again.
Okay, I muted it.
Okay, I
Can you hear
muted
me
it.
okay?
Can you hear me okay?
All right, try one more time.
Can you hear me?
Oh man, the audio quality is terrible.
I think the one that was working, Kevin, you had the right idea. Mute the two phone numbers and try, is it Kim? Is that who we're trying to hear right now? If you can unmute,
Yeah, try your
Kim,
computer again.
Yeah.
try that.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, let's give it a go. Worst case, I
Can you
think.
kind of hear me?
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
try
that's
that.
better.
You're probably low on bandwidth. Documents.
Tell you what, I'm gonna have Maureen do the presentation.
Yeah, I would prefer that.
Hi, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can screen share here. I'm gonna pull up the drawings. Can you see this screen? Can you guys see this?
Yep.
So first of all, I'd just like to say that the owner took your comments about the building on the property line on the east side seriously, and did her best to make some considerable concessions. And so we have revised the plans, and that's what we would like to present here. First of all, the garage has been pulled back from the property line. I'd like to actually show you a different drawing here. Just hold on one moment. These are the elevations here that have been revised. And if you take a look at this grayed out portion, this is what we had presented previously. And so this is the property line here, looking from the alley down the side here. And so this building, the second floor has been pulled back by 3 feet, and the first floor has been pulled back by 1 foot 4 inches. The height, the overall height has been reduced by more than 2 feet, I think 2 feet 9 inches. We lowered the ceilings in the garage and we removed the roof deck and we changed the roof profile. We've also changed the material. If you take a look at the east elevation, this was the wall that the eastern neighbor was concerned about. They felt that it was too tall, it was too solid, it was stucco. And so the owner has made several concessions using siding throughout, stepping back the building, reducing the height, and even in this area, clipping this corner to allow for diagonal views towards the northwest. Let's see here. So that essentially is our presentation in terms of what has been revised. You can see here on the west elevation how much lower the building is. And on the north elevation, you can see that there originally this wall went all along the property line, and now it is pulled back on the ground floor 1 foot 4 inches and on the second floor 3 feet inches, as well as the overall height has been reduced. Those are our comments, and we're open to taking questions.
Thank you, Maureen. I have a question. This is Kevin. You had emailed me about the fence along the inland side of the property. Do you have that to put on display? Yeah, that's okay. That bottom one there. Okay. And so the garage there, it's like 1.5 feet off the property line. Is that right? And then the rest is further in.
Sorry, I was muted. I'd like to point out that we have pulled the garage back to where the existing garage is currently.
Okay.
So this project proposes demolishing the existing garage that is 18 feet by 18 feet. It's substandard. And so trying to accommodate the concerns of the adjacent neighbor, we feel that by building the proposed garage where the existing garage wall is, would alleviate any concerns that the neighbor would have, because it's basically maintaining that same wall a distance from the property line.
Okay.
We can't make the garage too narrow because we still need to be able to park 2 cars in it. And so we feel like that was a reasonable accommodation.
Okay. And the square footage on this, is it the same as before, higher, lower?
It's approximately the same. It's just under 1,200 square feet for the ADU. It's 11.
And so that involved moving the top floor back a few feet. So where did that square footage, where did they get added onto, I guess, if it's similar to what it was before?
Well, it's what you see here is there's a balcony in the front where the balcony used to be on the side. So we really have just adjusted the locations of the space on the second floor. The first floor remains the same except for the garage becoming smaller, essentially narrower. And then the second floor is set back with the balcony on the front instead of on the side. It's stepped in from both sides of the property. and it's elongated a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to see if it had gotten longer on the second floor. Look,
I'd like to take that back. That it's not necessarily longer. As a matter of fact, it would be considered shorter. I think the previous plan showed that the second floor was along that setback line.
Okay.
And the front of the building is at the same location.
All right. Yeah, I guess it just seems like it decreased in square footage, but I just didn't see it in the calculation. That's why I was curious if that's been updated properly. So I think that's pretty clear, at least, what's going on. Let's see. I think the main issues at the previous meeting were just with it being up against the setback, being tall, having a storage kind of parapet right up against the property line. And so that portion of it is one, as well as the redesign of the siding as well. All right, does anyone have any comments on this? Members of the public, let's start with you guys. I'll let you fire away. If it gets too out of hand, I will rein it in. But you're free to unmute yourself now and speak up.
This is Suzanne Klausenstock. Can I go ahead and go?
Yes.
Can you share my screen, or can I share my screen?
Yeah, let me stop Maureen's share. You shouted that ability.
Okay.
Let me see here.
You get that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. So we met with the neighbor, Deborah, and the architect and the general contractor, and we went over all the issues that we had. And yes, we were absolutely thrilled to not have just a massive wall. But again, that 4-foot parapet was part of that wall for the rooftop deck. And that's really, that made a huge difference having that there. So really from the roof line itself, the roof is actually dropped down 2 feet, because they went from the garage being 12 feet to 10 feet, and they maintain the second floor being 10 feet in height. They do have vaulted ceilings on both floors. So one of the things that we had asked for was if you can see on this drawing what's in red is our building. The heights of the people, the tall one is 6 feet. The short one is 5'6", to give you an idea of what people are looking at. So you can see it's granted, it is, it has come down 2 feet in as far as the roof line goes. And that definitely helps, but we still are concerned because one, if you look at the very bottom, there's a dark green line that goes across. That's the proposed raised ADU grade. And if you look at the blue dashed line, the existing ADU grade, you can see there's a pretty substantial difference. So when we add on their 9-foot, the 6-foot plus the 3-foot privacy screen, you can, I don't know if I can enlarge this. I think I can, hang on. Yeah. So you can see over here, that's the height. So here's the people on our walkway. And that's 13 feet, 8 inches in the air. If I go to the next, hang on, let me go to this one.
Well, you should be on the planning board with all these diagrams.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do this for a living. So you can see 13.8 from the height as you're walking through. It's just, it just doesn't seem that it's right to have something raise up in grade, still allow them to put a fence line that's 9 feet up in the air. I'm not sure what the rulings are on that. I actually didn't even have a chance to check that one up. I just got back in town a day and a half ago, so. But yeah, so that was still an issue. We did ask, but I will show you this though. I mean, this is something that, again, we talked about light of day. this whole area here, where this little guy's standing here, that's the deck for the walkway to get to the front doors. So this big wall here is actually where the windows for the bedrooms and the front door is. So you can see when you have something that has two 10-foot tall ceilings plus an additional 2 feet because they've raised the grade towards the front of the building, it does make a difference. I mean, it's hard not to, it's just hard not to see that that definitely affects the people. The other thing is their new plan shows the deck patio, or I should say just the upstairs deck. It's a solid, if you can see where this little bit of, where these two people up here are standing up there, they had a solid wall. And if you can see right behind here in red is a window, that's the second story window, sorry. So we were saying if they can consider doing a partial cutout, that would at least get some light getting through to those areas. Any bit of light we can get from this is greatly appreciated. The other thing is all these overhangs are from the rooftop. The eaves are about 3 foot set back, not set back there. They extend out about 3 feet. And we're just saying if there's any way that even that can come back a foot, 9 inches, anything at this point will help. So if these can, if these can come back, it just get trimmed back. It's considering that it's about an 18, 19 foot width on the property, having a 2 foot overhang or a 2 foot 4 inch overhang, architecturally at least, still lends itself to having that feeling of having that overhang because it is a narrow property. If it was a larger property, I understand 3 feet, but in this particular instance,
Right.
all the overhangs are narrow.
Basically, it's the overhangs and the, well, yeah, I guess the fence and the retaining wall.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the 3 main things I'm seeing here.
Yep. And then on the last one, the other thing that we talked about with their general contractor, and they mold this over for a little bit. On this page, you can see we maintain the 10-foot garage height because she really wants a 10-foot garage height. And then we said, well, how about at least if you drop it back, so when you get down here where we're at the bedroom floor, where it says 10-foot bedroom height, if you go straight across where the new dashed line is, that would allow them to drop from the garage, the back of the garage, they could go straight down. They would have a 12-foot height in the kitchen entry area, and then they could drop down to a 10-foot height in the bedroom area. And that allows this entire roof line almost drops down almost 2 feet from here. So again, I know it doesn't seem like much, but 2 feet of extended roof. I don't know if they looked at that or if they ended up not deciding to look at that, but I mean, it certainly is not taking away anything from the heights that they wanted. And then I think my last,
You showed that one.
I was going to just show you, here's really quick. I had grabbed somebody who was running down the street and I had her come up and stand in my office. My office is 9 feet high. She is 5'3". That's a 9-foot height ceiling, and they have 9 feet upstairs and down. I mean, they have 10 feet upstairs and a vaulted ceiling. This is 9 feet and a flat ceiling, and it is beyond luxurious. So I still have pain when the other question we had was nobody's ever discussed the color of the building. Obviously, if anything dark would only make it just miserable for us.
Right.
The other item really quickly, let's see, was I
We
think.
gotta get this moving. I think-
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. That, I think one of the notes that I had from one of our tenants was that the neighbors have, they're not around as much because they have property out of state, so they are. And so we're just saying, just if we can get a little bit of consideration, I understand she wants the 10 feet for the garage, but even a foot upstairs, it doesn't seem like we're being unreasonable in asking that. And then trying to figure out what we can do about that 13'8".
Is there other members of the public that want to comment on this one? There's a couple phone numbers on here that have been quiet.
Might be some of my tenants.
Checking the chat. Let me double check the Facebook real quick. This meeting is in too many places. But we always love to hear feedback. I think that's it for the public comment.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
I do. Who's talking here?
Okay, I was trying to hit the mute button, and apparently I had to hit *6.
Okay.
My name is Bruce Babcock, and my wife, Christina Riley, is on the phone as well. We are the neighbors to the west. When an opportunity, I'd like to speak.
Yeah, go for it. You got 2 minutes.
I'll go as quickly as I can. First, before I address this project, I wanted to talk to your group very briefly about the notice situation. When this project was first posted, my wife and I got a hold of Veronica Davidson and said, look, we'd like to be noticed of anything that happens on this. We were a bit surprised in late January when we found out that your committee had a meeting and we hadn't received any notice. I called Veronica and she told me that, oh yes, we only give notice for the hearings that are down in San Diego. We don't have anything to do with the Ocean Beach hearings. Mm-hmm. So after that, I called Andrea Schlegeter. I'm sorry if I butcher that name, but it's the best I can do, and asked that we be put on the list to get notice of any hearings on this project. There has been no notice to us at all. I only from the applicant advised me that she thought she was going to go forward today. As of Saturday, 4 days ago, Saturday, the only thing on your agenda was for April 22nd, and there was no agenda. I called again to Andrea Slageter, and she said, well, email Mr. Hastings and find out what's going on, if it's going to be on calendar or not. I searched your website thoroughly. I could not find any email for Mr. Hastings at all. Anyway, I do see it now that he posted some stuff on Sunday morning for today's hearing. I did there see his email. So anyway, just for the future, if there could be better communication, perhaps between your group and Ms. Davidson and everyone, to maybe let people know that if you just register down with the city, it's not going to help with Ocean Beach things. Now, aside from that, my wife and I, as I say, we live next door. And if you folks, I don't know if you've seen the project down here, but our house is a mirror image of the applicant's house. They were both built in 1937, 38. And we've lived here for, I don't know, 13, 14 years, something like that. And the neighbors have been here for several years. I do want to tell you that the neighbors have been very nice neighbors. We like them very much, and want to continue to like them. We do have some concerns about the project, though. We realize that the applicant wants to make her garage a little bit wider. They are not adding any parking for this new unit, by the way. There is no parking going to be for this unit. But anyway, we understand they want to make the garage wider, and we understand they told us they were going to add an ADU, and I noticed Mr. Hastings' comments when I read the the minutes from your last meeting in January, Mr. Hastings seemed to indicate that this is not technically an ADU, it's a companion unit. And I have searched and I can't find the difference. And if someone could explain that to me, if there is a difference, I'd appreciate that. The other thing another thing to let you know is that our two houses are 5.5 feet apart. And for 85 years, these houses have been here. Both parties, both owners have walked up the walkway between those two houses, that 5.5 walkway. The applicant now wants to put what in some places is a 9-foot fence and in other places is a 9-foot fence on top of a 3-foot wall. So it turns into a 12-foot fence between our properties. And as you might imagine, we're not that happy about that. I'm quite sure, and I've been a real estate broker since I was agent since I was 16, and a broker for the last 45 years or so. And I think that we either have an implied easement or a prescriptive easement, and I don't think there should be any fences down between the two properties. And we're talking to our neighbors about that and see if we can reach some compromise. We're trying to work on that. One of our concerns is that the height of the building, same as the other neighbors on the east side, the height of the building is going to block our sun to our studios and to our rear patio. I should say, in the back of our house is, started out the same as the neighbors, 700 and some feet. We added 80 feet. We're now almost up to 800 feet. Our two studios are 200 feet each. So that's 400 feet total for two studios behind our house. They're very small. And we're very concerned about cutting off the light to the studios and cutting off the light to our back patios. Like I say, if you look at that fence that they're proposing, if you look at drawing number 14 in the middle of the fence, you'll see there's some steps there, and it's not just a 6-foot fence with a 3-foot on top. That is sitting on top of a wall, and then what the other neighbor was mentioning about the slope and the whole foundation level and all like that, it gets even higher. The whole thing is just high. Number two, I noticed, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read my notes here. Almost done. Views. I noticed from the minutes that, I don't know who it was, but somebody on your committee said, well, look, the height is bad, and it's particularly bad because they're not going to have a view anyway. That's not the case, guys. They have, on their property, the applicant has a wonderful view to the east and the north. You're right. You're never going to have a view out to the ocean or anything to the west, but they have a wonderful view to the east and the north. And it is beyond me why they have not oriented this house to take advantage of their view. They have a beautiful view, and instead they've oriented it so basically all the windows at this point are looking down on our back patio. Now, after the first hearing, I talked to the applicant, and she said she had talked to her architect, and they considered flipping the house, just doing a complete flip. I'm sorry, not the house, the new unit, just completely flipping it so that it would orient that way. And I thought that was great. I look at the plans. I finally got them today and printed them out, and that hasn't changed. She didn't flip it, and in fact, they're still basically looking over our patio. The concern about putting a fence down our 5.5 foot between the houses is that we lose our access to our cellar. The gas meters are in the way. Everything is in the way. It will be a nightmare. We will basically have very limited access, very difficult access to get back to our garage. And I make that walk several times a day, back and forth from the house to the garage. And we don't want to lose that. Let's see what else I got. Sorry, guys, trying to go as quick as I can. Aside from reorienting the house, flipping it, reorienting the proposed ADU or companion union, whatever it is. Aside from that, the access that they have on the east side of their home is much more private. If they have their tenants coming up between the two houses, they're going to walk literally within a foot or so of the applicant's bedroom window. And if they don't put a fence up, they'll be within 2 feet of our bedroom window. If they do put the fence up, that's got its own problems, as I just pointed out. But they have wonderful access on the east side. And I've talked to the applicant about that. And the impression I got is that she and her husband, and again, we like the applicant and her husband very much, but they just don't even want to consider going up the east side where it's much lower. And they would not interfere with the east neighbors. The east neighbors would never even see them. They could put their fence up over there, and the people can walk to the back. There used to be a gate over there to get into their backyard. That's been removed many years ago before they got here. Let me see what else I've got. Parking. There's no parking for the occupants of the companion unit whatsoever. There's not going to be. And I think it's unrealistic. I know maybe it's the rules, but I think it's unrealistic to believe that anybody from back there is going to use the bus. They're not. They're going to park on the street like all of us. And it's just going to be that much more parking. See if I've got anything else.
I got to cut you off here. We're going well over on this.
Okay, that's okay. Go ahead. So we don't mind them seeing something or doing something, but we think it's too tall. I also have a problem. I don't understand 10-foot garage roof. I surely don't understand a 10-foot second story. I don't know why. And it's like, well, gee, we started at 12 and now we're down to 10, as if that fixes it. That doesn't fix it. They should be down lower, and I'm concerned that they've only lowered this by 2 feet. They were at 30. It means they're at 28 feet now, if they've lowered it by 2 feet and a few inches. Okay,
all right,
that's it. Thank you very much.
I'm going to stop you there. Appreciate your comments. Does the applicant, I know that was a lot of different items, but does the applicant want to respond to any of that with kind of help us understand the design thinking and why these things can't
Yes. This is Deborah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the one thing on that walkway, it's not, the property line is not in the middle of it, which I discovered. It's weighted to me. I have at least 3 feet on all the way through going through there.
That's
They
on
have
the-
these
Is that the
students.
west side you're referring to? The west side?
The west side of the two houses.
Okay.
Okay. So they have in the back of the house, there's a 10-foot wide, I don't have a picture of a buildup between the garages, 10 feet wide, and they concrete was put in, which was lowered because my house was lower than their house. And when they have a big rain, it goes through the vents, the underground vent in our front house. So the grade on that side, the west side, needs to be different. Now, Mr. Babcock says he's not changing his grade. I go, well, there's no way we're going to have it. That's fine, but I'm changing mine because I'm not going to step this 3-foot step up there, this solid block of 10 feet of concrete. I have to cut that to allow for my garage. And of that concrete piece, 5 feet 9 inches of it is on my property. That's how far it's horrible the way they did that. They did not adhere to the property lines. So that's my complaint. No, we do not want to go on the east side of our property because, well, it just doesn't work. There's no room to put up a fence on what he's talking about. So we're building this house. Yes, we want a tall one. I'm used to those things. We're selling the property in New Mexico at some point. This is where we're going to live. We need property, places to store, and we're not providing we're providing we want to provide parking for 2 cars. And whoever's living in the back one would be able to use the garage, and whoever's in the front uses it. All right, I'm done.
Thank
Well,
you.
at least against his comments.
One, and the neighbor on the other side mentioned the solid balcony wall. And I think also the other significant one was the fence height on top of retaining wall on there. I want to add to that, the fence was real close to the garage. It's like 1.5 feet. So I'm not quite sure what.
Right. Oh, right now, there's a planter that's on my property that they've been having use for the last 13 years since I've lived there. And we're trying to take some of that back so we can have a legal size garage for width size. Otherwise, we have to go through something such that we get an appeasement or whatever it is, because the garage size is substandard.
Okay. What about that the railing or the deck wall?
Oh, I haven't even actually seen that. So I assume that's probably not a problem. I thought it was, I didn't see it, but.
It showed as this, it's now, because now it's accessed directly from the second floor.
Yes, that's the patio. We redid the second floor completely.
Yeah, I noticed that. And then it had a solid walls around that that deck. And she was asking if that was necessary to have those solid, if it couldn't.
No, it's not necessary.
Okay.
I'd like to speak to that. The owner has the final say on how she'd like her balcony. But from an architectural perspective, the lower roof dies into that balcony. And so it would be most appropriate for it to die into a solid wall for flashing and waterproofing. The sides of the balcony were essentially to just finish the material so that it was cohesive. And that was the point of having it solid.
I'm having a hard time picturing what you're saying. I want to see if I can get it on my screen.
Yeah, you want to pull
And
up?
the big thing is that property line on the west side. It is my property. And he always has claimed it's prescriptive easement, and it's not a prescriptive easement. The owner of the house. Sorry.
I have a shared kind of an access way with my neighbor, and we're at different distances. So I completely understand that situation. Ultimately, everyone's entitled to their own boundaries, is what it comes down to. Let's see here. I'm trying to find with regard to that wall. Let's see here.
And this picture that's on this, oh, never mind.
So this is the west elevation, but the east is similar. I think she's referring to this where there's siding.
Yes, if you
on this versus something else. I didn't understand your explanation on, is it because this has a pitch here?
Yes, could you go to the elevation above? Right
Okay.
here.
So you
So do
want
you see where
this
this-
pitch against a solid wall.
Yes, this, right.
Okay. I've got a similar design on my house actually, and I have this opened up behind it with it, obviously solid here, but I haven't built it yet, so the whole thing might fall down. I'm not sure.
Could I make one really quick comment on that?
Be quick, please.
Okay. On my plan that I had shared with you, the front is solid, but the side would be partially open. Not even, I mean, you can still go, and you see this all the time architecturally, that people will take it in like a foot or 18 inches from each wall, so it's equally set in, and you drop a little rail, whether it's 2 feet or 30 inches. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I understand what she's saying for the front to die into. I understand that. We're talking about getting sun from east to west. That's a north wall.
Yeah, the other one's similar though.
Yeah, except for it goes back farther on the other side.
I want to say something about that balcony and about the various concessions that the owner has made in redesigning this building. They have all been to accommodate the neighbors' concerns. And to open up that side of the balcony for a little bit more view from the other neighbors, we feel like we've made so many concessions by stepping the building back, by lowering the roof, by changing the, by introducing windows, to open up the balcony so that it's more visible to the neighbors. Seems to me to take away a little bit of the privacy that the dwellers of this unit are entitled to. So I just want to point that out. We have tried to make various concessions, and we do want to be sensitive to the neighbors. But I also want to point out that the dwellers should be entitled to a certain level of privacy for their home.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's all I asked for is hear both ends of it. So is there any other public comment on this one? I'm going to close the public comment period for good if there's no one else that hasn't spoken.
Do I count as public comment? Though, as the owner?
Well, I think you've had plenty of comment period in that sense.
Okay, well, one of the things I do want to say, I have to say, is that Suzanne, okay, forget it.
Who's on the
Forget
phone?
it.
Who said hello? Okay,
Hello?
I can hear you. Are you a phone
Oh,
number
thank
2661?
5062. 5062.
Okay. What do you have?
Hello, I'm Christina Riley. I'm Bruce Babcock's wife. I own the property to the west of 4953, and I would like to address the wall going down or fence between our properties on the west side. Both the properties that face each other, we both have mud rooms, and originally there were doors, egress doors, and our neighbor had long before removed their egress door and put a window in. I, on the other hand, currently have my mudroom door, and if they put that wall up or fence up, I will no longer have an egress to the east. If I won't be able to get them out of my home. Once the door is open, I would hit a fence. I would not be able to exit. I believe that would be a fire safety hazard. And it would block all light in my home.
Okay, you're talking, are you referring to, I have a Google map overhead view, and there is a middle property.
See that big chunk of
middle building of your property, is that the one you're referring to with regard to the egress?
Yeah, that's on my property, right? That's where the mudroom door is for my property. Deborah no longer has that on hers. It was gone before they purchased their property. She has a window now, and we use that all the time to exit our home. And if they put any structure between that door and the west, I won't be able to exit my home. The only exit would be through the front door. I don't think that's, I don't know, is it legal? I just don't think that's going to be a good thing.
Yeah,
Well, I disagree.
we gotta settle this. I understand property lines. If she doesn't have an easement on your
He
property.
has access, Kevin.
Well, yeah, but if she's not entitled to use it if you put a
Yes, she is.
wall up there.
I'm entitled to an egress.
Well, not on the other neighbor's property.
I won't be able to get out of my home.
So this is an issue I think is going to have to be resolved at the city level. If there's maybe a pre-conforming previously conforming condition or something with regard to that that might require an easement?
Oh, and I burn up here, it'll be on your choice, right?
But as far as this board, I don't think we're going to be able to resolve some kind of easement or right to access, especially on a neighbor's property at this level. That's going to be a city level thing.
Okay, all right. I just
And
wanted,
I can connect you with the project manager for this particular project if you want to
Veronica?
address that in more detail.
Is that Veronica?
Probably, I think that is. I also wanted to
Not-
quickly respond to the public or the comment about noticing the mailers that go out from the city tell neighbors within a certain distance to contact the board. The board
Yeah.
has all those saved on a contact list for each project. And whenever it's agendized for a meeting, it is distributed to those on the list. And that often is only 3-4 days before the meeting, because we don't know what the agenda is or if the project's
We never got,
until that
we
happens.
never
So
got,
I distributed to, I think there was 3 or 4 different emails on Sunday, it might have been Saturday, Sunday or Saturday on this particular one. And so I would encourage, I love engaging the public as much as possible. I've done even door hangers in the past. And I think we need, all eyes, transparency is a big deal.
what's your source for your emails for neighboring? Where do you get the email?
If you contact Andrea at the email on the notice, it will put you on that queue to receive
Okay.
those when the meeting's
Done
filed.
this, and they're not responsive.
And as far as the board projects, anything that goes to projects@oceanbeachplanning.org will also get you on the list if you reference a specific project. And it's possible there was a email that didn't get sent out. I can't answer all that right now. The fact is we're here. This is not the final meeting on this. It's going to go to the full board. And then it's also going to be decided on process 3. I don't know if that's a city council hearing, but it'll be decided on by the city after that even.
This is Mr. Babcock again. I just wanted to comment again that the applicant herself has been good about keeping us up to date on what's going on. So she has been good about that, but we have gotten no notice from either the Ocean Beach board or from anybody, because nothing's going down.
I'll check with Andrea because
anyway,
it's not going to change the past, but I do want to make sure that all interested members of the public are included on all correspondence on these agendas.
my comment was more for the future. I just wanted to let you guys know that there seems to be some lack of communication between the city and here. That's all.
I'm going to close the public comment period. We gotta get this out the door one way or the other. Do any of the board members want to comment or make a motion on this?
Oh, God.
I'm gonna mute everyone that's not a board member. Public comment is closed. If you want to make more comments, come to the full board meeting on this item. I'll start. I haven't heard anyone yet. I think it's a major improvement over what we saw before. That said, I don't want to necessarily judge a project based on how bad it could be, but on what we have in front of us. So the roof lines, the roof pitches, all that increases sunlight. The setbacks certainly helps. That side view she had, the neighbor had, the building, the top corner of the building is moved in, a lot diagonally to allow more sunlight in. They do have the code behind them to build very intrusive buildings, and frankly, the city supports that quite often. So I think the board is probably gonna have to accept those changes. And one thing I don't get is I still don't understand the really high ceiling heights, but they're entitled to that. The fence along the garage east elevation, that's like 1.5 feet from the house. I don't know why that works. I mean, is it just a mess of weeds and you can't even get in there to maintain anything? It just seems unnecessary. I don't know why they're just, it's like they're putting a fence there just so the neighbor can't step foot on it. I don't know. Even a little concrete step or something, if they don't want plants there, would actually, let that stucco or whatever breathe at least a little bit. And you can actually get to it if you had to. So the fence there, it doesn't make sense to me along the actual garage part. The other comment is, I think I would support this at the full board, except for the FAR issue is still unresolved. It's still required that 25% of the allowable FAR be reserved for parking uses, whether that's garage or surface or just not it just can't be all living area. So this one is, I don't have my notes in front of me on it, but it was like 100 and, let's see here. It was over that amount. It's 81% of the allowable FAR is living area rather than 75%. So it's like 100 square feet over that. And that's per the city code. So I would move to recommend approval of the project contingent on meeting the FAR requirements in code section 131.0446E and providing some sort of more open railing on the second floor balcony wall. That's my motion. You guys are free to discuss and comment on the project or second my motion.
I've got a few comments, Kevin. So before we
Go ahead.
take action on the motion. Well, first, I agree. There's been a lot of progress since the last meeting. There really has. And I agree also that it's not that we should compare, bad to worse. But I think that there should be an acknowledgement that the input that we took good time and detail to consider and hear the public comment at the last meeting was responded to a large degree. So we should note that for the record. This is probably, in my time on the board, this is the project that seems to best illustrate some of the issues that we have here with density and trying to capture as much square footage as possible on these lots. And in this particular corner of our community, it's really this idea of the grade change. When here, the grade change is actually working opposite to what you expect. There's a rise towards the west. So you really, you do start to get into this question about natural light. And I brought it up the last time, but you really, with the grade change going in a different direction than your brain expects, it's a real thing. And I think quality of life is definitely affected by natural light. There are other instances, you can Google it, but countries even have ordinances around the right to natural light. And so I'm going to commend the neighbor again for doing a lot of work on behalf of the tenants. And obviously there's a priority for her as the owner as well. But I think that there has been some good illustration about just what it means to have your natural light blocked by a huge structure that may not be paying full attention to the effect that you have on your neighbors when constructing something. So lots of words, and I'll try to be a little bit more concise in respect to your role as the secretary, Kevin, and having to transcribe all these minutes. But where I land with it is I'm challenged to enforce a restriction on the ceiling heights. I think that 10 foot is all over this community, and I think that the applicant has a right to that. For me, the single thing that I would try to find a way to work into a recommendation is the drop down between the alley, the garage grade and the home, and finding a way to reduce the overall height, not necessarily in the ceilings of, ceiling height of each room, but in the overall ability to have the at grade level be lower. So, and I think the neighbor to the east gave some illustration to how that might be accomplished. And Kevin, I think you referenced it either in this meeting or the previous one, where starting with the garage, you could accomplish a drop down right after you exit the garage and into the main building. I think that would be a significant recommendation to try to accomplish. Everything else here, as much as it might be a little bit oversized in my opinion for the lot, I see it as allowable. So that's my 2 cents. So I guess my friendly amendment to your motion would be encourage the applicant to find a way to lower the overall grade for the main structure of the home and the of the home. So, and in doing so, the overall height of the building for our areas not above the garage.
Well, I think that's been asked of the applicant, and they've basically said no for various reasons. So would your amendment be that our recommendation is contingent on that? I don't.
Well, I'm sorry if I missed it. Help me, or maybe the applicant can quickly refresh. What was the challenge with doing that, with lowering the grade of the overall structure beyond the garage, which obviously needs to be a little bit higher grade because of the alley?
Can you address that, Maureen, if possible? I know it's.
Yeah, thank you. We did actually try to, we did take a look at that, and essentially because the second floor is over the garage ceiling sets the height for the second floor. It doesn't help us to drop the floor of the dwelling where the kitchen and front bedroom are. It just makes their ceilings taller. The second floor just can't come down lower than what the garage ceiling is. So it doesn't help us to drop the finished floor on the first floor at all.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. And now I understand why the 10-foot garage ceiling height is so controversial, because that's affecting the rest of the height of the building. Unfortunately, I don't think that a 10-foot garage height ceiling is out of the ordinary either. So I guess I don't have a solution. So no, Kevin, I wouldn't add the amendment you suggested. I struggle with this one. Again, I think the applicant did respond to significant input at our last meeting, including window placement. I think I used the word atrocious just for the lack of consideration to what was just a big blank facade to the neighbors to the east here, and that's been improved. And so that's my input. I'll be happy to support a motion if any other board members have comment, but that's my 2 cents, I think.
Thank you, Chris. George or Stephanie?
I have no comment.
I have no comment.
Is there a second for my motion?
This is George. I'll second.
Okay. I'm gonna do a roll call vote. I'm a yay. Chris?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So that was a contingent motion. So this would be a discussion item at the full board. If you're ready, I'll double check the cycle comments, but I think the major stuff was cleared on the city's end. The FAR 25% rule is something that has been inconsistently enforced. I can provide the references for that if you'd like. It will get to the city regardless. It's better if it's
Kevin, could you
process.
please repeat that code section that you're referring to in terms of the FAR for the garage?
Yes, it is code section 131 1.0446E. And it was deleted from the code in ordinance. Where is it here? Ordinance 21288 last year. And all these code changes have to go through the Coastal Commission and be certified. Otherwise, they're meaningless in the coastal zone. The Coastal Commission usually certifies them. Sometimes they tweak them for various reasons. But the fact is, it's a pending code here. So we still have to revert back to the code that is certified, which requires 25% for parking. And this is kind of an issue it's unresolved at the city level. It's been in discussion on numerous projects. And so they need to be consistent on it. They're enforcing it on some and not others. And I can give you the actual code by email.
And the other contingency fence, is that correct?
The second floor level balcony railing, opening.
Oh, the railing.
Yeah, the wall railing, whatever you call it. So that was our motion, and it's passed. And I will, if you're interested in the May agenda for the full board, I'll double check on the cycle comments. That FAR issue would require some fairly significant modifications to chop off some, about 100 square foot at some point, even if it's on the front house. And because there's and the community plan also basically says don't allow far deviations ever if the law doesn't allow it. Just a little bit redundant, but so that item is done, and we got to move on. We got to shut this meeting down. And we got one last thing: in-person meetings.
Thank you.
The full board voted to go back in person. It's somewhat contingent on the rec center being open till 9 because some of these drag out. Project review meetings are usually done by 8. This is not the norm, Stephanie. Some of these projects sail through without any comments at all, hardly. These particular ones seem to be controversial. I kind of prefer the virtual for some of this stuff. I think the ability to share documents is more critical on these, and it provides more opportunities for public access. Even though I definitely support the in-person for the full board meetings. But I'm open to input on that. What do you guys think about doing this? Or actually anyone, members of the public as well. You're free to comment on this item as well. But
This is George. I don't mind keeping them virtual.
I'm fine with them too, Kevin, that I think, but also realize that we're opening back up and in-person meetings serve value for a number of reasons too. But I think for this one, like you said, we got a lot of visuals and things to be looking at on screens and documents to keep track of. And so sometimes hard to do that in the rec center room. This seems to be a good, seems to be working well. We can always do in person eventually if we all vote on it sometime in the future, but I'm all right keeping it virtual.
Do you have a preference on that, Stephanie?
Honestly, I think virtual is a little bit more efficient, just screen sharing and seeing all the drawings. So I'm for virtual.
All right, is there any public comments on that? Ideally, a hybrid setup could be done, but it's going to require some additional technology and additional effort. I will take the public noticing issues to heart and make double, triple sure that we are very careful to cover all interested parties in our correspondence. I move to continue with virtual meetings for the project review committee until further notice. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Is anyone opposed or abstaining? Hearing none, that's a 4-0-0 vote. And I have no reports. I'll see you guys at the full board meeting. Next project review committee is in 2 months. If we have a dearth of projects, we sometimes do in between meetings. So hopefully it runs a little faster than this one. So I move to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, George. Anyone opposed? Hearing none. Vote 4-0-0 to adjourn. All right, guys, go enjoy your dinner.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Later, folks.